Hi everyone, this is Isla from Ha Essentials, and for my very first video that I wanted to post, I did want to go over what a formulation is and what is the difference between a formulation versus a recipe. Okay, so a formulation is the process of designing a skincare product by carefully selecting ingredients, determining the correct percentages, and combining them in a way that creates a safe, stable, and effective product. So when creating a formula, you want to take into consideration the function of each ingredient and what it contributes to the final product. For example, humectants attract water, that could be glycerin. Oils soften and condition the skin, that could be coconut oil, argan oil, etc., etc. Emulsifiers bring oil and water together, so oil and water don't mix, and if you want to create like a lotion, you have to have an emulsifier of some sort. You can also have more than one emulsifier, but we'll talk about that later on. And a preservative. So when you're making anything with water and oils, you always want to put in a preservative. This helps prevent bacterial growth. While formulating, you want to make sure that all of the ingredients are compatible with each other, which is why most formulators, when they create a new product, they usually just create something very small. I would say maybe 4 ounces, even that's kind of large, maybe 2 ounces. So you just want to make sure that everything is compatible and that the texture feels normal, it doesn't get sticky or tacky, all of that stuff. We usually have a small test product because we want to test and see how stable it becomes over time. I've noticed that when I've created lotions, although it's usually good for about a year, it tends to get kind of more thinner and it tends to separate after a year has gone by. But as I got better with formulating, I started adding more than one emulsifier to make sure that, it won't separate. Although you might have the ingredients that you want to make sure that they're all stable together, they work together, and that they can function properly. You don't want to have too much of one ingredient because it can kind of hinder the entire product. So you gotta go and research this by yourself. I personally bought several different ebooks, guides. I purchased this book. This is A through Z of Natural Cosmetics Formulation. So you wanna have some sort of resource, or you can even look online, write it down yourself, and just make sure that all of the ingredients are working together, they're functioning properly, and that you have a preservative to protect you. Especially if you're selling, you need to have a preservative inside of your products. Now we're gonna go over the difference between a formulation and a recipe. Basically, a recipe is how you would follow the directions to make a single product. Whereas a formulation, you can create an endless amount of products. Basically, when you understand how to create a formulation, you can scale the recipe, and you can either scale up, you can scale down. And I noticed that with skincare, a lot of the base recipes tend to be the same. So it's better if you understand how to formulate. It's kind of like following a recipe. Everything has to amount up to 100%. And it could be any size. And I noticed that a lot of people, they don't really understand percentages. They just want the amount of everything, and it's really not that hard to understand percentages. Like, just go a step further so that you can create your own formulas. And you don't even have to really memorize all of the ingredients and the max limit or the minimal limit that you have to put inside of the product for anyone to see any kind of benefits. There's calculators that you can buy on Etsy, like skincare calculators, where you can input your ingredients and then they'll tell you the proper percentage to use in your recipe, just for your information. Restarting this channel, I'm gonna basically step into building a foundation step by step. We're gonna start with the basics, such as ingredients, equipment, measurements, and formulation principles. For beginners, you'll learn essential equipment that you should have on hand, how ingredients work, how to read and write formulas, how to calculate percentages, how to create emulsions, how to choose preservatives, how to troubleshoot failed products, if at all possible, and how to confidently create your own formulations. If you have made it this far, thank you for watching, and please subscribe to my channel if you are interested in learning how to make your own skincare products.